Hey everyone, happy Friday. I think this is on. Um, I wanted to talk to you today about a few things, mostly about Juneteenth. So today is Friday, June 18th. Tomorrow is Saturday, June 19th. If you didn't know, it's a holiday called Juneteenth. It's actually just been named a federal holiday by the government, which I and many others think is a good move, an important move. It's the commemoration of the end of slavery in the United States, or I guess at least in some parts of the United States. I did a little bit of reading into the history of how it began. And in honor of Juneteenth today only, on the 18th, Bandcamp is doing a fundraiser to where all purchases today only, they'll donate their share that they usually collect for profit. They'll donate it to the NAACP Legal Defense Fund to help fight racial injustice in this country. So that means all day long today on the 18th until midnight PDT, which is actually 2 or 3 a.m. If for my Central and East Coast people, which I think is a lot of you, um, all day long you can download Fractured Heroes audio chapters from fracturedheroes.bandcamp.com. Name your price, any price you want, you feel is appropriate, and a portion of your proceeds will go to the NAACP Legal Defense Fund for a good cause to help fight racial injustice in this country. So that's happening today. If you want more details, there's an event on my page. That's actually, I posted it to both my personal page and my author page, Samuel N. Harris. So you should see it there near the top. It says download Fractured Heroes on Bandcamp fundraiser for Juneteenth or something like that. So that's a good event that's happening today. I wanted to talk to you about that, but I also wanted to talk about, I guess, just well, in general, kind of the significance of Juneteenth, and then how it, or specifically how these issues of, I guess, race and racial injustice affect our writing. So let me talk to you for a few minutes about that, and yeah, I'll use that as a preface and go into it. So I didn't even know Juneteenth was a thing until last year, I admit. Now that could be because it wasn't widely publicized, and it's just now getting the recognition it needs sometimes. It also could be because it originated in Texas, and I didn't move to Texas till last year. I live in Texas now. We moved about a year and a half ago. So I had not heard of Juneteenth. I didn't even know what it was. But I guess it's a bigger deal, or it's more talked about around here, maybe. But it is now a federal holiday as of, I guess a couple of days ago. Which I think is a big deal. It's important to recognize, the ending of slavery in this country, as it's been a big part of our history. I mean, a bad and dark part of our history, but it's something we're still seeing excuse me, seeing the ramifications of today. And I think not that this recognition of a federal holiday changes everything, or maybe that much, but it's a good, at the very least, it's a symbolic move that recognizes this is important, and this is something our country needs to acknowledge. Um, and I do think it's important for us to acknowledge. Now, I'm speaking obviously as a white person who has never faced racial injustice to the degree that many others in this country have. But it's important to acknowledge that racial injustice is still happening, and you and I need to care about it. Now, I'm not here to get political. No, I'm not trying to get political. If you This is my public page, my other page. If you're friends with me on my personal page, you probably see more of my political opinions than you want to. So my goal today isn't to tell you to support some laws or support some candidate or president, or to support one side of a movement or anything. Um, my goal today is just to talk about caring about racial injustice and racial prejudice and things like that does exist still in our country today. I mean, in some ways, it may have gotten better from where it was many years ago, but it's still, if you couldn't tell from the race riots and everything in this past year or so, it's still an issue. There's still injustice. There's still inequality, and much that needs to be addressed. So my point here today, I mean, from one white person speaking to my fellow white people, if any of you are listening, we need to care, and especially you and I, who are in a position of, I guess, not experiencing this kind of this kind of oppression. We need to care. There's a video I watched that I sometimes refer to people to when they deny the reality, or when they just question, like, is racial injustice really still happening in our country? There's a video I've pointed people to before, and you can go and find it. It's called Phil Vischer Holy Post Race in America. If you Google that, Phil Vischer Holy Post Race in America, you'll find it. It is about 17 minutes long, but it's engaging, and he gives like statistics and facts about history and just things about just I guess info about history and our culture today that show how, in many ways, Black people in this country still are, as a group, as a whole, under oppression or at least inequality. It's 17 minutes, engaging statistics, but at the end he says, "So what am I asking you to do with this information?" He says, "I'm asking you to care." So that's all I'm asking you today. And I'm not trying to get political. I'm not trying to make all white people feel bad for being white. I know that mindset is out there somewhere. That's not what I'm trying to do. I am asking you to care about what's going on and to take action where you can. Again, this isn't the place where I'm going to try to give specific courses of action. I mean, even if I had the solution, which I don't, obviously, it's bigger than any one of us or any one group or whatever. I'm not here today to tell you to take some course of action, but other than care about racial injustice and do what you can to speak out, stand up, end it in your community, whatever. If that means taking action in your community, if that means talking to your friends, if that means supporting a fundraiser where they're donating to the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, whatever that means for you, I do think it's important that you and I care about the racial injustice that's still happening in our country. So that's my little spiel. That's as close as I'll get to being political today, I hope. But since these videos that I'm writing, these videos I'm doing are primarily about fiction writing, and my story, what I have there in Man Camp is a fictional story, I wanted to shift the focus here to fiction. And yes, I'm still connecting it to this topic of, I guess, racial inequality. But I have a question for you today, for writers and readers and anyone else in that camp, because I know some of you are. I'm going to ask you, and the questions are in the comments too, but how have you done representation in your writing, and how does one do it well? Okay, if you don't know what I mean by representation, that's the term that's commonly used these days for representation of minorities. I mean, specifically today I'm talking about racial minorities, which in America maybe Black people, but there's other races too, Hispanic and Asian and such, who count as minorities. But it's a question I don't have the answer to. I'm opening up a discussion about it, hoping to get some answers, and hoping to tread civilly and tread lightly also, but also have a helpful discussion. The question is, how have you done representation in your writing? How have you done it? How does one do it well? Is it even possible for someone like me, who's a white guy in America who does not have the experience of being racially oppressed? Is it even possible for me to write well about these topics and these kinds of characters? All good questions. And I don't know the answers. I'm not trying to lead you toward any one specific answer. I'm legitimately just going to talk about my experience, which I'm not saying is the best way to do it necessarily. I'm just saying it's what I've done as a writer who's not professional yet, or sorry, I should say not published yet. So I'm going to talk about the answers from where I can see them, and then I'll read you a short section from my shortish, maybe medium-sized, from Fractured Heroes, to see where that goes, and just that I think has significance for this topic. So yeah, okay. So I asked, how do you do representation well of minorities? Can someone like me even do it well? And I've heard kind of two different camps on this topic. In fiction, they've said things like, well, you don't have to write, just things you've been through. Yes, you draw from your own experience, but I saw, and I forget which author it was, but some sci-fi author or fantasy author I was reading or maybe my brother was reading as a teenager. Their bios had something like, kind of facetiously, like based on their work, people have assumed he's a woman or he's all these different races or whatever because he's written all these characters, and that's not in fact the case. So kind of positing the idea that you don't have to write only what you know. And in a broad sense, that's true. I'm writing an ensemble cast story. There's 5 or so main characters. 2 of them are women. I've never been a woman. And yet I'm doing my best to write these female characters realistically, drawing from people like my wife and obviously women I have interacted with. And so yes, obviously to some extent, if you're going to be a writer of fiction and you're going to deal with realistic fiction that includes a lot of different voices, yes, there will be times when you have to write outside of your demographic, or you have to represent characters who are not like you. That's, I think, to a large extent, a healthy and good and normal and right thing. There's also the camp, I guess, that says it's maybe growing more popular in recent years. That says like people like me, white people who are not minorities, we shouldn't try to do representation or as much, or I guess the mindset behind that is it can seem offensive, or if we're not if we're not careful, we're presuming to write about something or someone or an experience that we haven't had, that we don't really know, that we're not really familiar with personally. So it can be even unintentionally offensive or unintentionally, I don't know, dismissive or callous. So I wouldn't want to do that. That's the last thing I want to do. So I get where that mindset is coming from. That says like I mean, I don't know if anyone would specifically articulate this, but I saw something like things recently about in media, in acting, even in voice acting, they want to have black actors portraying black characters and things like that, which I think totally makes sense. And you wouldn't want to have there's complaints about whitewashing of characters who have been minorities before, and we wouldn't want to do that. So I get the mindset that says like white people shouldn't try to represent these things, or should at least be very careful when doing so. And I'm not completely in either camp. I see. I think there's a middle ground somewhere. Is what I'm saying. I mean, I don't have the answers, but I think I get why I as a white person should be careful with this. I also think, as a writer, I'd have to do it somewhere or other. I'd have to have some representation in my stories, and so I'm going to try to. And I mean, I'm writing a superhero story. Superheroes are my thing. I went to the classic example of Black Panther, by the way, whose name preceded the real life group, the Black Panthers, by a few months. I read that on Wikipedia. But Black Panther is a Marvel superhero. He was a star of a big successful movie a few years ago. He was created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, just like most other early Marvel heroes, 2 white guys in New York. And he's been very successful as a character. And I mean, I don't know if I've read the very, very early stories, but I don't know if I've read his comics from back in the '60s. But like, what I'm saying is, knowing them and knowing what I've read of other early superheroes from Marvel, I don't think he was a one-dimensional black stereotype or anything. I think they were probably dealing with realistic issues of race and such, and injustice in America. And I think it's good with the comic book world, with the fact that these characters survived for decades and multiple creators touched them over time. I think it's good that black creators are now giving their voice to Black Panther and people like that too, in the comics and in the movie and such. But I'm like, well, Stan and Jack did it. I mean they're kind of the icons in the comic book superhero world. And I'm like, if they can do it, can't I? Maybe. So, I believe if you're going to be a good writer, you can, or at least, and to some extent should, at least try to have good representation in your stories. That being said, I haven't always known how to do that. So Fractured Heroes, if you didn't know, I've been working on it for a while. My first draft was out I wrote it in 2010 to 2011. That's 10 years ago now. I put out a self-published copy that was of an old draft that now I'm a little embarrassed by, because I think my current draft is much better. But here's a copy, and if you notice, this is from like I guess 2012, so almost 10 years ago. And if you notice, the characters, okay, they're all white. Now there was a guy in the middle who's in a full costume, face mask and stuff. Spoilers, he's a white guy underneath. And why is that? I don't really have an answer for that. I mean, when I was younger, 10 years ago, I wasn't really thinking about race in my story. It's not it's not a major issue for my story. I mean, it's in there maybe a little bit, but it's a superhero story. It's not primarily about race, and I mean, again, as someone who hasn't experienced those things, I wasn't really trying to present them as much. But and the other thing I think is well, yes, you write what you know, you write what you draw from, the genres you draw from, but also, if I did include a black character, I didn't want to make him just the token black character. I guess that's the other pitfall to fall into, is just put a black guy there to check a box, and he's a one-dimensional stereotype. Not what I wanted to do either. So definitely not my goal. So whether consciously or unconsciously, I don't remember if I even thought about this when I was first writing 10 years ago. At least didn't think about it too long. Whether consciously or unconsciously, the main characters in my book one are all white, because that's what I know. That's where I was coming from, and I don't think that's inherently a bad thing. There are people today who would say it is, but that's just kind of the way it worked for me. But I have realized over time representation matters. I think it does. I could go into a long spiel about that, but I've seen memes and stuff about, like, in recent years, the movies that have had like black-led black-led action movies and female-led and even like Hispanic-led from Marvel and Star Wars and Disney and such. Those have really spoken to minority groups and people who up to this point haven't seen maybe action heroes looking like them. I do think that's important. So yes, I do think representation matters. Is important for fiction writers, at least to an extent. I mean, it depends on your setting also. I saw something that said, like, the movie Dunkirk, which came out a few years ago, like Christopher Nolan, was criticized for not having people of different races, and I'm like, this is a historical movie about a war in Europe. Like, everyone there was white. Like, that's historical. So, like, yes, there are settings there. If setting is a big part of your story, I mean, there are settings where it wouldn't be as diverse, and that's just kind of the nature of things. But my story takes place in modern day America, and I made up a fictional city, but it's supposed to be, urban present day America. And so, if we're going to be realistic, I need to have people of different races, and I need to portray them well, not just as a stereotype or anything, but they need to be portrayed well. So in book two, which I've drafted, I haven't done much beyond the drafting yet, but in book two, I do have a new main character, who is a black man. And again, I don't want to make him the token black character, just to be there. And I also worry that I may have already pulled off a superhero trope, which is kind of like the main character is white, and like the sidekick or the secondary guy is black, which I think happened just because these characters were adapted from comics over time, which have shifted with culture over time. I didn't intentionally do that, so if I did, if it feels like that, I'm sorry, but I'll give you a quick spoiler, if you want it, just to explain this. If you don't want spoilers for book one, cover your ears for about 5 seconds. But quick spoiler: this guy in the middle, in the black costume, the black mask, he dies at the end of book one. And in book two, I have someone else basically taking up the mantle, basically taking up his costume, his fight. And there's a reason in the story for why that happens. And that guy is actually a character who I had as a minor character in book one, who I've kind of rewritten to be the same character. And in book two, he becomes more of a main character. And yes, I made him a black man, and I'm trying to portray him well. I mean, as not just a black man, but just as a man, like as a fleshed out, realistic character, like I portray anyone else. Trying to. The readers, I guess, can be the judges of whether or not I do that well. Anyway. That's kind of my spiel right now. It's kind of where I'm at with representation. First book didn't do it much. Second book has done it more, or at least tried to do it more. I forget what I was going to say. This character, his name is Aaron. He's a new, I guess, major-ish character in book two. I mean, he's not one of the. I have like 4 main characters by the end, my original protagonists, but he's, spoilers again. He's going to join their team and fight alongside with them. They won't trust him at first just because he's new, but he's there. So again, yeah, I wanted him to be there. I wanted him to be part of the story to flesh out my world, and just also, I don't know, make sure everyone didn't look the same, make sure there's different voices, different people being represented, and just try to do it well. Race isn't a huge issue in my story. Again, it's a superhero story. It's about, I guess, crime, but on a kind of on a comic book level, like super villains and things like that. It's less about. I mean, I try to say it in a realistic world-ish, but it's less about real world politics. Wasn't intentionally inspired by real world politics. More about the superheroes and them overcoming their issues. So anyway, I've babbled for a bit, I guess. If you have any thoughts, comments, I'd love to hear them about just how to do representation well, how you have it as an author, or have you seen others do it well. I'm going to read you a section. This is about Aaron, my new character. His name is Aaron Franklin. This is from his origin story. I'm not going to read the whole chapter, but a few pages. And you can see, hopefully get to know him, hopefully get to see him as a fleshed out character, and hopefully, appreciate the character for who he is. Okay, this is from Fractured Heroes Book 2, and this chapter is also on the selections on Bandcamp. Okay. Aaron Franklin floated back to consciousness in his queen-sized bed and instinctively reached over to the right side. He found himself caressing only the air and a stray massive blanket on his hand's downswing. As he opened his eyes and shook off the last remaining traces of sleep, he fully recalled the situation. He was alone. Even the dog must have wandered off to another part of the house during the night. Aaron didn't think about it for now. He got out of bed. He took a shower. He looked at himself in the mirror. 37 and brown-skinned, still muscular and in good shape, and hair that was short and thin from intention, not from age. If only I still felt as good as I look, he joked to himself. He got dressed in the standard work uniform, a white dress shirt and black tie to match his slacks and shoes. He went to the kitchen and checked on the dog's food and water. Then he made himself a hot pot of coffee, along with a hearty breakfast of eggs, bacon, and toast. As he sat down, Aaron pulled out his laptop and set it in front of him on the table. He booted up the computer, took a deep breath, and they made a video call. He swallowed a mouthful of coffee uncomfortably as the device rang. Once, twice, 3 times. Finally, the call was answered. The screen became the image of his wife, Gwendolyn. Her face was not as youthful and vibrant as it once had been, especially these days, but Aaron still saw the woman he had fallen in love with so many years earlier. "Hey, baby," he said. Gwen scowled. "Aaron, it's not even 8 o'clock. Derek needs his rest right now. We talked about this." I know, said Aaron. "But I gotta see my boy before I go off to work." "He's sleeping," Gwen reemphasized. "It'll have to be another time." "Is that Dad?" came another voice from the computer screen. "Can I talk to him?" "Hey, son," Aaron called to the screen. "It's me." Gwen huffed before handing her tablet to her son. The image became that of Aaron's son, Derek. Aaron could recognize traces of his own face and Gwen's in their sons, and that same rich brown skin, though paler and faded now. Derek wore a drab green hospital gown and sat up in his sterilized white bed, surrounded by machines and various medical equipment. His head was completely bald, but you almost wouldn't notice it for his wide, enthusiastic smile. "Hey, bud," Aaron said cheerily. "It's good to see you. How are you feeling today?" "Okay," said Derek. "Just okay?" "Yeah, I'm still really tired and weak a lot. The doctors say that'll happen for a while." "I know, buddy, but you're being really brave and strong through it all, aren't you?" "Yeah." "Did you know your dad is proud of you?" "Yeah." Derek shifted focus as suddenly as one might blink. "They have a lot of cool games here." "Yeah, what are you playing?" "I got to play Minecraft yesterday," Derek explained with an even tone, "and I got to a new level." "Great job, buddy," Aaron said. "Hope you're not just playing video games all the time, though." "No." "Mom still making you do your homework?" "Yeah, and we read books, too." "Great. That's awesome," said Aaron. He paused. "I really miss you, son." "I miss you too, Dad. When are you coming to visit?" "I'll come see you tonight. I shouldn't have to work too late this time." "Yay," said Derek, smiling widely again. "I hope you can come. And maybe I'll bring some ice cream, too." Gwen made an obvious throat-clearing noise from off-screen. "If it's okay with your mom." "Okay," said Derek. "I'll see you tonight." "See you soon," said Aaron. "I love you, Derek." "I love you too, Dad." "Love you too, baby," Aaron said to Gwen. She didn't answer before cutting the screen off. Page break. Or scene change, or whatever. Aaron stepped into the busy, bustling, multi-story office building where he worked each day. He was greeted immediately by his partner, Sean Morris, a lanky man dressed almost identically to Aaron. "Hey, Aaron," said Sean. Aaron nodded in his direction. "Morning, Sean. Boss wants to talk to you." Aaron's brow furrowed. "This early? When you have a minute." "What for?" "I'd better let him explain that one," Sean said. "But he already talked to me. It's good, trust me." Aaron glanced quizzically in Sean's direction as the latter patted Aaron on the back and walked away. Aaron stepped into the bathroom, checked his appearance, and straightened his tie before taking the elevator up to his boss's fifth-floor office. He knocked on the door. "Come in," said a voice. Aaron stepped inside. His boss was sitting there, wearing an expensively tailored black suit as always, with black hair, mustache, and goatee to match. The man was smiling devilishly, as if he knew something that Aaron didn't. "You wanted to see me, Mr. Gabor?" Aaron asked hesitantly. "Aaron," Simon Gabor said genially. "Of course. I'm always glad to see you. Please, have a seat." Aaron took a seat in front of Gabor's desk. Gabor sat down at his desk as well. "I trust you've had a pleasant morning so far?" Gabor asked, sitting back and folding his hands. "I've had worse," Aaron answered. "And your boy, how is he doing?" Aaron took a breath. "Honestly, he's not doing well." "I'm terribly sorry to hear that. Eric, isn't it?" "Derek," Aaron corrected. "Derek," Gabor repeated. "Mr. Gabor, what is this about?" Gabor looked at him. "Aaron, how long now have you been on my security staff?" "Just coming up on 4 years, I believe." 4 years. And at that time you've received what? Minimal raises each year? And no promotions? "That's right," said Aaron. "Or, that is, I wouldn't necessarily use the word minimum myself. I don't want to complain or sound ungrateful." "But it's true, isn't it?" Gabor asked. "You don't have to pretend otherwise. I know how hard it is to raise a family in today's economy, especially under your unfortunate circumstances." "Yes, I'm sure," Aaron said politely, without thinking about why he had said it. To his knowledge, Gabor had never raised a family, and he was clearly much better off than most people in today's economy. "Aaron, an employee of your hard work and faithful service deserves, and frankly needs, more recognition than that. And I honestly believe it's a travesty that you've been overlooked for so long. A travesty that needs to be rectified at once." Thank you, sir." "I'd like to offer you a promotion," Gabor stated bluntly. "A new position with a significant pay increase." "Okay." Aaron had to close his lips to keep from verbally asking, "What's the catch?" Gabor answered the unspoken question anyway. "But here's the thing. I know you don't know about our super drug, the formula that our company developed several years ago. Did you know that we've been reopening the avenue of research?" Aaron narrowed his eyes. "I'd heard rumors." "Well, I'd like some willing volunteers to act as test subjects," Gabor said. "They'd be compensated quite handsomely, of course. But the purpose of this is actually twofold, I'm afraid. You see, I worry that these experiments might attract some unwanted attention, particularly from the unknown superhero humans already in the city. That's why we may need a security force that's uniquely equipped to deal with this particular threat." "Wait a second," Aaron asked, mouth open wide. "Mr. Gabor, are you actually asking me to subject myself to the super formula? To become, what, some kind of powered freak?" "I would have worded it differently, but ultimately, yes, that's exactly what I'm asking," Gabor stated, as calmly as if you were asking the janitor to take out the trash. "Sir, That's crazy," Aaron said, now abandoning whatever professional demeanor he had tried to maintain up to that point. Can you even ask for that? Is that even legal?" "Think about it, Aaron. A young, working professional in your line of work, personal security, but with superpowers? You'd be the top of your game, the best in your field. You could do anything you wanted." "No," Aaron shouted. "I once subjected myself to something like this." "I thought you might say that," said Gabor, "but you may want to see the full offer before you decide." He placed a manila file folder on his desk in front of Aaron. Aaron hesitated and huffed, but took the folder and began to look over the piece of paper inside, and his eyes grew wide. "Am I reading this right?" he asked. "Is that right away?" "The first amount all up front as a special compensation," Gabor explained, "followed by the yearly salary at the bottom. When I said a significant pay increase, I certainly meant it." Aaron shifted his eyes. I thought, does the company even have this much money?" Gabor huffed lightly, but it was almost unnoticeable. "We've begun to recover nicely from some of our setbacks in the earlier years. We recently embarked on a few very lucrative partnerships, in fact." Aaron shook his head, not knowing what to say at the moment. "Sean Morris has already signed on," Gabor added. "You and he will be the heads of my personal security, answering to me directly. It's a unique offer, and I haven't made it to anyone else." I, Aaron stammered, fists clenched with anxiety. "Think of your boy," Gabor put in. "His medical bills. I know they're not cheap. Think of your family. I know you would do anything for them." "You're seriously..." Bribing me? Aaron asked, no longer hiding his disgust. Exploiting my sick son for what? Your unethical science experiments? I'm simply trying to correct an oversight for one of my best employees, Gabor said, though his words rang hollow in Aaron's ears. I want to help, Aaron. I'm on your side. Aaron huffed and seethed, too angry to say anything else, angry both at Gabor and at himself. Still, I realize that's a huge decision, said Gabor. You can take a few days to think it over, of course. Aaron hesitated, gritted his teeth, crumpled the piece of paper in his hands, but ultimately looked up again at Gabor. I don't need a few days. Where do I sign up? Gabor grinned evilly. And that's the end of that section. If you want to hear the rest of Aaron's story, it is on fracturedheroes.bandcamp.com in audio format, along with significant portions of Book 2 and scattered portions of Book 1 as well. Again, if you download today, name your price to download all day long. A portion of your proceeds will go to the NAACP Legal Defense Fund to help fight racial injustice in this country. So I hope you do that. Hope you consider, I guess, again, that's just, I'm asking you to care. Hope you do what you can in your part of the world to care about these issues and make a difference. So thank you for being here. Thank you for listening today. I wanted to give an announcement of one more thing quickly. A week from today, that's June 25th, at 2 p.m., I think a different time than usual, 2 p.m. Central, 3 p.m. Eastern Time, I'm doing the author interview with John Dexon Miller, author of many of the Star Wars books and Star Trek novels and Marvel and Star Wars comics, things like that. We tried to do this interview about a month ago. We had technical difficulties and it didn't work. John has graciously agreed to reschedule. So that is happening a week from today, June 25th, Friday, at 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central. There is also an event for on my page, Samuel N. Harris. Hope you can find it. Hope you can come and talk to an author who is doing successful things in his field, successfully writing creative, fun fiction and making a living out of it. I'm looking forward to talking to him. Hope you are too. And in the meantime, have a great weekend. Happy Friday and happy Juneteenth to you all. Thank you for being here. Bye.